Hey guys, my name is Moon and welcome back for more Witch on the Holy Night. So last episode, very action packed, from Sojuro to Aoko fighting, right? It was insane. And Sojuro died and he resurrected as well. So yeah, let's see what happens today. Aoko is pretty much like a super powered being now. Her hair changed as well. His eyelids snapped open. At last, Sojuro awoke from his long slumber. Lying on his back, he gazed up at the stars. The trees around him created a porthole into space. Despite seeing all this for the first time, he felt an uncomfortable sense of déjà vu. So many questions. What had happened before he slept or he fell asleep? Why had he been sleeping? Everything was just so hazy. It was like he had walked out the door 1 minute and woken up in bed the next. With so many thoughts clouding his mind, he could barely recall his own name. All he could remember was a girl he'd never seen before. Why did Sojuro forget everything? And something thin around his neck.
Shizuki-kun.
The voice, quiet but clear, belonged to a girl named Alice Kawanji, who was at his side. He sat up, mumbling incoherently. The black-clad girl knelt next to him. Flowers. He said, paying no mind to Alice. Under the blue moonlight, spring flowers swayed, surrounded by dead trees and snow. So you're telling me, yeah, he died, right? And then he came back. Now he doesn't remember anything? Come on. Against a curtain of night, white petals dance in the breeze like butterflies. Staring long and hard at the spectacle, Sojuro suddenly raised his fingers to his neck. He moved carefully like he was touching a wound. Then gradually he began squeezing harder and harder.
Shizuki-kun.
The voice of the girl beside him brought him back to reality.
せっかく戻れたのに。また行くの?
She sounded both sad and reproachful. Look at that scene there. But Sojuro didn't understand why. Seeing the uncharacteristic concern in her eyes snapped him to his senses.
行くってどこに?
His fingers fell away from his neck. Without answering, she blankly looked to the sky. But that is kind of sad though. Is this just maybe the effects of him being resurrected? And maybe he'll remember later. But if this is permanent, then yeah, all those memories that they had from the mansion, right? All those nice stuff they had done, all forgotten? Though there was only the infinite darkness of space.
まあいいや。それより俺は何をしてたんだろう。なんか変だ。ごちゃごちゃしてる。
He's not even saying Alice, right? Yeah, he didn't even say her name. Sojuro tilted his head in confusion. Alice observed him motionlessly. This bewildered boy was a far cry from the one that made short work of a werewolf. Then again, this was Sojuro. As she stared at him, she realized she did not have an answer he could understand. So she tried asking a question. The same question she had asked him repeatedly as he slept, but eventually gave up expecting a response.
今まで、Shizuki-kunは何をしていたの?
Her quiet question was spoken like an enthralling spell of magecraft. Said spell seemed to work and Sojuro sank into a sea of memories. Atop the bright white hill, they quietly sat for a while like siblings.
誰かの声が聞こえた気がする。何かを聞いているようだった。けど、自分は最後まで一言も返せなかった。
Though consumed by darkness of death, he could still vaguely recall the girl's question. He was not aware that he had died, but it seemed a fragment of time remained from when he had been with her. Sojiro's expression darkened, filled with regret. Looking at his profile, Alice pressed him further.
それで欲しいものは見つかった？
Remembering that someone had asked him questions, he gave a slight nod.
ああ、そうだった。けれどね、アリス。そんなものは見つからないって思っていたんだ。うん。ずっとそう思っていた。
The regret in his voice was accompanied by a hint of strength. Lowering his gaze, Sojiro saw a white flower garden that looked like something from the afterlife. It shone brightly, captivating him.
思い出した。青子の前でざっくり言ったんだっけ。なのに生きているのはどういうことなんだろう。
Sojiro said, prodding his body curiously. His arms were old selves again, but what of Aoko? He turning toward Alice for an answer, who was sat among the flowers looking sullen.
巻き戻されたのよ、しずきくんは。この風景も本来はあなたの記憶だけど、わからない。
Alice seemed to be speaking in riddles.
俺の記憶って、その割には知らないところなんだけど。
今しずきくんの時間は青子に使われているから、それが戻されるまで思い出すことはないわ。
She answered ominously as she cast her gaze over the flower garden.
でも、これが消えてしまうのは残念ね。元に戻れば、思い返せるのは私だけなのに。
Looking at the white blossoms, she smiled momentarily.
おう。
Her words only confused him further.
アリス、君答える気がないんだろ
う。He said dejectedly, prompting Alice to face him, so I guess it's okay. What emotions lay inside those deep eyes? And what I mean is, at least he remembers.
意味のない話だけど、聞きたい？
聞きたい。アリスが教えてくれるならなおさらだ。
Sojiro nodded enthusiastically while Alice took a deep breath and closed her eyes. When she spoke in a caring tone as she was capable of.
結論だけ言うと、あなたは一度死んで生き返ったの。しずきくんが瞳子さんに殺されてから、青子が目を覚ますまでの5分間分の時間を巻き戻して。
So she went back in time for 5 minutes.
その時、あなたは10年近い年月を青子に使われた。
10 years of your time?
2人とも肉体年齢は変わってないから、中の時間だけ持っていったんでしょうね。
10 years of your time? What does that mean? I mean, I guess that's why she's much more stronger, right? Remember Toko saying it last episode that, yeah, it didn't feel like she's gotten stronger from just using the magic. It's like, yeah, it's like years of training, but it happened in an instant. That's why she's much more stronger now.
だから今、この景色を懐かしく思えるのは青子だけ。そして、
And once the time exchange was over, neither Aoko nor Sojiro would remember what happened during these moments. When Aoko used someone else to channel her true magic, it did not affect her alone. If she had rewound time for only herself, the temporal inconsistencies would form part of her own experience. However, this was a proper time travel. The inconsistencies would be corrected. When the magic ended, both Aoko's memories of this place and Sojiro's unfamiliarity with it would be corrected. This miracle would become unrealized. Only the observers would remember this brilliant white sea of flowers, Alice and Toko.
時間を持っていく
Yeah, how does that work? Sojiro asked, his head tilting even farther at Alice's general explanation. She recalled how Aoko said that if you gave Sojiro a roundabout answer, he would stop asking questions, even if he did not comprehend it.
しずきくんを生き返らせる方法はなかったから、命の復元より死そのものの回避を青子は試みたのよ。まだ青子には無理なのか、それとも今回もひよったのか。大きな操作は避けて小さな操作、自分とあなただけの交換にとどめたようね。あなたは今5分間だけ時間を飛んだことになるわ。仮に遠い未来、この時間を検索できる人がいたとしても、あなただけは誰にも見つけられない。だって時間軸の上にいなかったんですもの。そして同時に青子は自分の時間を上乗せするためにあなたから時間を借り受けた。多分幼年期の時間でしょうね。個人の時間操作は忘却している部分の方が楽だと聞くし。しず
What is that? More than likely, time from your childhood, from what I understand, individual time manipulation is easier when using forgotten memories. Should I slow down? Alice asked with her eyes. All Soldier could do was a nod.
つまり2つの奇跡を青子は行使したの。あなたの体の巻き戻しと自分の体の早送りね。しずきくんの時間に介入する際、ついでに10年分の時間を借り受けて未来の自分を持ってきた。だから今瞳子さんを殺そうとしているのは27歳分の時間を持った青崎青子ということになるわ。
27 years of experience. Jesus, that's why she's much more stronger now. What on earth was Alice talking about? Sojiro's expression gave away his thoughts, though the part about Soko made him furrow his brow.
瞳子さんを殺すって青子が
もう終わってるでしょうけど。
And then Sojiro's gonna go and stop her. Come on. Hey, look, he's gonna go. He's gonna stop her now. As soon as Alice answered, Sojiro sped off, kicking up white petals behind him as he ran. The brave boy who defeated the werewolf was back. Alice watched him go. On a snowy night, the same boy ran down Shironoizuka Hill for her too. Sojiro entered the old school building. Lights flashed and the sounds of destruction exploded around him, threatening to turn the area into burial ground. Still, he remained focused.
ほら。悪いけれど、やっぱり無駄だったわ、青子。
Her words only reached the white flowers around her. Aoko knew Sojiro too well, so she wanted Alice to stop him. If he tried to interfere in the battle against Toko, she could not protect him this time. Imagine if Sojiro died. Again. Come on. But it was too late to celebrate Aoko's judgment now. The girl in black had no intention of going after him. She simply sat for a while, gazing forlornly at the transient flower garden. Here we go again. This storm, or a storm of magic bullets, struck down the hull, or a hail of lightning blades. Look at Aoko. A mage's workshop was her home base in the last line of defense. It featured an abundance of defensive spells designed to cut down brazen challengers and thieves. The old school building was no exception, painstakingly rigged by the puppet master and the rune mage. Toko Aozaki. A reflection of her bizarre obsessions, the workshop was set to indiscriminately destroy any intruders.
足止めぐらいは果たせバカモン
Toko complained as she ran down the hallway, activating her traps along the way. But nothing seemed to work. None of the runes, regardless of their quality or quantity, could slow her sister down. I mean, she's much more stronger now, that's why. Way stronger. Her reaction speed and ability to predict attacks could only be described as transcendent. Even magic bullets she fired from both her arms were too much, destroying the runes and the very walls that housed them. As she spat out her words, the ceiling opened, increasing the pressure from the runes. Invisible walls popped up in the hallway. Aoko stopped and swung her right leg upward. Straight toward the ceiling. Her foot cut through the thick air like a knife, through butter or shattering the ceiling and the runes along with it.
あんたの方こそいつまで経ってもこの凝り性どこもかしこもルーンだらけ少しは遠慮ってもんがないの宇宙要塞張りに改造してんじゃないってのみんなの思い出の校舎なんだからもっと大切に扱いなさいよね
The wooden boards along the hallway that had withstood decades of wind and snow were now destroyed. Aoko charged forward. The chaos was inevitable. While Toko's runes cursed living creatures, Aoko's magic bullets destroyed all without prejudice.
夕方のかけらもないあんなのが自分の妹だと思うと
Toko would do anything to change her blood, but there were more pressing matters at hand. The girl rushing her now was not the sister she remembered, but rather a more complete version of her. Toko couldn't afford to let her guard down for a second. But...
笑わせるそんなものが魔法であるものか
Localized time travel, Toko didn't believe that was the true nature of the Aozaki's magic. Aoko's transformation had to be a mere byproduct of true magic. She couldn't make heads or tails out of it that, even with Aoko having achieved it, at the very least it was not so simple a miracle. After all, the concept of time travel was already made possible through the second magic. Record manipulations, revisions of possibilities, and so forth involved the operation of parallel worlds. So, there was no way that could be the fifth magic.
となると次に出てくる疑問はこれか青子貴様その10年分の時間をどこから持ってきたあのボンクラからよ悪い後で返すんだからあんたに非難される覚えはありませんけど
That made sense. There was a bias, but the amount of time on this axis had not been changed. But
ではあの5分間はどうするまさか私を始末した後彼を元の状態に戻すのか
Aoko stopped in her tracks. Toko had took aim at Aoko's glaring oversight. Aozaki magic and Aoko's humanity were inconsistent.
そうだ時間操作では死者の蘇生は許されない
前がしたことは一時だけの気休めか。
The magic crest on Toko's back began to demonstrate their true worth. Drawing upon the magical energy stored in the crest, she materialized her largest trap yet in the hallway.
あるいはより罪深い暴虐ということだ。
Three rune stones appeared. Their scale and level of magical energy were wildly different from the other runes, created by Toko herself at the Mages Association. They were replicas of one of the lost primordial runes created by a Nordic giant. The three thin crystalline lenses amplified her carved runes tens of millions of times. They rendered projectiles like magic bullets ineffective. Even if Aoko's magical output far exceeded Toko's, these giant slabs were several times more powerful. Still, Aoko's signature magecraft could only release magical energy, so she had no way to defend or evade the attack.
Main, set.
Pushing herself on, Aoko took a deep breath of resolve. Instead of defending or dodging, she went low and charged into the rune storm. Infuriated by the realization, Toko set her magic crest to full power. Through repeated second-long bursts of time travel, Aoko was able to avoid the runes completely. She was either sending the attack impact at a different time, or layering several thousands of herself atop one another. Whatever, in no way she could keep up that kind of magical energy output. Aoko kicked the crystal slab to pieces. Two remained at distance 30 feet. Toko had 10 seconds of magical energy left, but that was all she needed. Aoko, on the other hand, would stop now if she had any common sense as a mage. She couldn't continue breaking the rules for much longer. Then again, time travel itself was breaking the rules.
Aoko!
Once again, Aoko used the same technique. Toko's suspicion turned into a white-hot hatred. She couldn't care less about her time travel formula. It was the amount of magical energy she had. Where was she pulling the energy necessary to jump through the time or through time for so long? It was the death of Sojiro Shizuki. If she had brought him back 5 minutes to when he was still alive, where would those 5 minutes go? Aoko's magic wasn't using parallel worlds to change this one. She had only rewound Sojiro's 5 minutes. Then logically, he'd return to being a corpse as soon as the magic ended. Time travel that didn't change the world couldn't change the past. Therefore, if she wanted to save him, she had to either truly resurrect him, okay, or send those 5 minutes of reality somewhere far away without returning them. Aoko showed no signs of slowing. From behind her crystal barrier, Toko glared at Aoko with disdain. I mean, it is Toko's fault that Aoko is doing this. If she didn't kill Sojiro, right, Aoko wouldn't have done this.
そこにあった熱量の帳尻をどうやって合わせている。
そんなの知るか。あいつの時間なら遥かな未来に置いてきたわよ。
15 feet to go. Faced with such madness, Toko wanted to cover her eyes. She put the death of this present in the distant future? A time paradox would have been more humane. Such an enormous haphazard consumption of heat could not be allowed. After all, time travel alone required a massive amount of energy. Magical energy was required to bring things from somewhere else. At the same time, losing something that exists here consumed an incredible amount of energy. And what about the magical energy used for cooling? If either fell out of the equilibrium, it would mean total chaos. The distortion caused by her magic would come to affect this entire sector of space.
バカここに極まったな。何千億年後に来る宇宙の死滅、人類の行く末に待つデッドエンドにさらなる負債を押し付ける気か。この星の頭上に隕石を作っているようなものだぞ。というか、お前の重みでこの星を押しつぶす気か。
The last comment made Aoko's eyes widen. Her every step exerted such force it broke the floorboards beneath her feet.
その時はその時で、今度は負債を過去に送ってやるわよ。それなら文句ないんでしょ。歪みに潰されるのは過去だけなんだから。
それで解決したつもりか。現在が確定している以上、過去を消滅させてもいいと。それでいいのは私たちだけだ。問題の総量、宇宙の負債はどうする。
Exactly. Even if the universe were closed or the present were still expanding, the absurd increase in heat consumption would become uncontrollable. That which waits for the end of infinite expansion. Infinite consumption. And infinite growth is a future without hope. The nothingness before creation. Eventually the universe would burn up.
青子の青崎の魔法はその結末をより確かなものにするだけだ。その責任をお前は。
言われなくても分かってる。責任なんて私が生きてる間に何とかするわよ。
5 feet to go. The rune blast, now carrying all of Toko's hatred, focused into a scorching hot laser beam. Her body being torn into by the intense heat and her emotions raging, Aoko drove her foot to the ground. Toko's last defense was shattered. Close enough to connect the two mages unleashed their magecraft. Red runes, blue ether, in a cascade of magic bullets, Toko Aozaki's crest were torn to pieces, and so was Toko herself. But she did. Aoko did it. Is it over? It is over. It was just as Alice said. By the time Sojiro arrived, it was already over. I like how Beowulf, like he had this moment and then it was just over for him. We didn't see him anymore. Like he was this big threat that lasted for just, a couple of scenes. And then he was done. The old school building's wooden boards had survived the elements for decades, but they were not ready for a mage duel. The entrance door hung off its hinges. The floorboards groaned. The stairs were ready to collapse underfoot. Toko's escape and Aoko's pursuit had left a trail of destruction leading all the way to the second floor. The chaos continued to the end of the hallway by the stairs to the third floor. Toko sat in a heap with her back against the wall. Despite her injuries, she kept her eyes firmly on Aoko. Oh, she's still alive at least. She was bleeding internally and had multiple broken bones. Look at her though, yeah, so injured. Wait, is her arm gone? Her left arm, I mean? She would not be moving anytime soon. Possibly damaged by Aoko's flying kick, her mystic eyes had ruptured from within, closing them indefinitely. Yeah, look at her eye on the left side. Yeah, it's bleeding now. Despite her battered and broken body, she was still breathing steadily, a testament to her stubbornness. Before her stood Aoko, staring down at her, uninjured.
屋上までは持つと思っていたんだが。
But it was her damn dumbass fault though. If she did not kill Sojiro, this would not have happened. Yeah. But she did, and then Aoko got angry, that's why. Toko was not trying to be facetious. She sounded genuinely disappointed. Aoko responded with a cold glare. Her azure eyes had not changed one bit. They were callous as ever, yet undeniably beautiful. From where she stood, Aoko held her hand out toward Toko. Like a hunter about to put a wounded prey out of its misery. The victor was decided. The mage came to steal land and got a death sentence for her trouble. The silence was disquieting. Moonlight peered through the demolished ceiling, illuminating the two sisters with its stare. The utterly mad siblings' squabble was over. Now the fireworks were finished, and the cold wind had returned to claim the old school building.
何か言い残すことはある?
Aoko's voice cut through the silence. Toko thought for a moment. Before lightly patting her coat pocket, nothing, she frowned.
最後に一服と思ったが、あいにくお前を待っている間に吸い切ってしまってね。日本のタバコはうますぎていけない。
Aoko gave a small nod.
なかなか常人には真似できない遺言だったわ。
待て待て、いくら私でも遺言まで謎かけをする気はないよ。お望み通り敗者は敗者らしく当倍をあげるから聞くといい。
Toko's voice was laden with sarcasm, but not hostility or hatred. Perhaps her vendetta was not directed at Aoko herself, but rather a product of the two sisters born into a mage family.
青崎の魔法が時間旅行に端を発するものとは思わなかった。まだ事情がありそうだが、当事者ではない私には何ともね。ボンプにはわからない悩みだ。せいぜい大事に付き合っていけばいいさ。しかし10年経ってもそれでは先が思いやられる。アリスは何をしていたんだか。
アリスにしてはよく付き合ってくれた方よ。魔術師としてはいつまでも半人前っていうのが彼女の結論。けどまあそうね。あの狼とならいい勝負をしたんじゃない?
Oh yeah, imagine if she fought with Beowulf, right? Like her like this. I wonder though.
あれはダメだ。敗北を知ってしまった。もう完全じゃない。
He's useless now. It pretty much destroyed his confidence, I guess. Beowulf, right? He was unstoppable, and then the first time he tasted defeat, yeah, he was just gone basically.
半人前に値で勝っていようが魔法の前には得意性を見失うだろう。
And the way he lost as well was kinda humiliating because he did not lose to a mystic or a mage, I mean. He lost to just a normal human basically, right? To Sojiro.
ところで青子、お前の魔法とやらは手段か、それとも結果か。
Toko wanted to know if it came before or came after. Did Aoko need magic to get her where she needed to go? Or did she obtain the magic as a result of reaching that place?
あとよ、私は扉の前で尻尾を巻いたからジジイの思惑なんて知らないけど。
第一魔法と同じ経緯か。ますます業が深い。第2から第4はその場所へ到達するために生み出されたものと聞く。同族嫌悪は世の常だ。いずれ第一と食い合わなければいいのだがね。しかし扉ときたか。魔法の継承とはパスの継承のようだな。ではやはりここにユミルの入り口があると。
北欧かぶれのあなたにとってはね、私にとってはアカシャの門と言えるものよ。
The Gate of Akasha.
最初からそれを狙っていたんでしょ、あなたは。
Toko used every ounce of strength that she could find to nod.
望めば手に入るというのに何台も待つのは嫌だったんだ。ソフトはそれで決別したようなものだったよ。青崎に対する復讐心はそれには優先されなかった。まあ全ては終わったことだ。もう語る必要はない。最後に根源に触れた感想が聞きたいな。
Toko spoke after taking a deep breath. Her last words showed no trace of hatred. Aoko remained silent as she began raising her right hand up high. Was she gonna finish her off? She recalled her grandfather's orders. The true source of magic. Revealing one's knowledge or impression of the root was strictly forbidden. But this was her sister's dying wish. Maybe it would be okay. The conversation would end the moment she brought her arm down. Then this rotting shell of a building would become her sibling's tomb. What harm could it do? And it's not like she planned to follow her grandfather's rules anyway.
白状するとね、姉さん。
Aoko's voice carried through the blue hallway.
正直、全然わからなかったわ。
Aoko gave a blunt reply and brought her arm down like a bolt of lightning. Or at least she tried to. Then Sojiro came. Let me guess. There we go. Isn't it so obvious? Of course he's gonna come. Her arm wouldn't listen to her. It wouldn't even budge.
何のつもり？
Cursing Alice, Aoko spat her question out with venom. Sojiro materialized from behind, taking a hold of her raised arm. Though unable to express it, Toko was shocked to see him too.
手、離して。
Without looking at him or even out of her restrained hand, Aoko spoke eternally, her eyes forward. Come to think of it, at the amusement park, he appeared out of nowhere to protect her from that puppet.
聞こえなかった。二度はないわよ。
She was not bluffing. If he interfered, even he would be given no mercy. I've decided to let you live. It would go against that promise, but you should know better. Even so, he maintained his grip on her arm, I mean.
いい加減に。
As Aoko turned around, the word told caught in her throat. She immediately regretted looking at him. She saw herself in his expression. The mournful sadness, judgmental anger. His conflicting emotions spoke to her own internal struggle. Voicelessly, quietly, without volition. Rustic gray eyes questioning a deep sin.
言いたいことがあるならはっきり口にしなさい。それができないなら消えて。
Sojiro gently raised or released Aoko's arm as she maintained her resolve. They locked eyes, neither friend nor foe. Their bitterness clashed without words. And then suddenly, okay, we got a nice music back.
人殺しはいけないことだ。
Sojiro stated in the matter-of-fact way of his with which Aoko had become all too familiar. These words were empty trite even. And yet, given her current state, they reached her. Although she would soon forget the fragments of Sojiro's memories, they made her painfully aware of how he felt. I mean, this is classic Sojiro though. The one who actually killed him was right there, and then, yeah, he still saved her. Still, she could not agree with him. It would come back to bite her if she let Toku go now. Her sister would come for her again. She had already made 2 attempts on her life. Aoko did not have it in her to forgive her sister for what she had done. Above all, just as Toku said, if Aoko did not change, she would be a novice forever. She had not even won her first mage battle yet, and she knew putting down a blood relative would require even more conviction. Nevertheless, his words echoed over and over in her heart. Murder is wrong, such a childish phrase, but the earnestness with which he said it, it was enough to make her sick. Resisting, Aoko glowered at Sojiro.
だから殺されたくせにその相手までかばうっていうのあんたは。
Yeah.
元気になったら懲りずにやってくる殺人鬼が相手でも見逃してやれっていうの。
まさかそこまで言ったら聖者だ。自分にはそこまでのことは言えない。
But he would probably still let her go. He did not think that Toko would change. He also did not care to rationalize her actions based on her life. He was simply thankful that this person before him was still alive. You seem pretty damn saintly to me. That was what had made Toko or Aoko so angry. His overwhelming innocence and self-righteousness enraged her like the Hall of Mirrors was happening all over again. The only difference was now she knew why he was acting like this. It was because she had taken a part of him. He took a step forward, passing by her, saying words he knew he should not.
仕返しなら殺された人間がやるのが筋だろう。君を止められないのは分かってる。だから青崎がやるぐらいなら俺がやる。
Sorry. It was difficult to discern who was the more pathetic in all of this. Toku had been staring at them the whole time, closer at her eye, as if drifting off to the sleep.
ごめんなさい、トウコさん。
Knowing her fate, Toko dropped her head as best as she could as he walked toward her.
君にはそれもいいかもしれない。今は特殊な状況だから、冷めた後に君がどれほど悔やむことになるか想像もできない。ただそれで君の停滞は終わるだろう。晴れてみそぎ落としというわけだ。純粋に祝福してあげられる。気に食わないのは、それを決意させたのが私ではなかったということぐらいか。
She knew that Soldier could not understand. Her words hang in the air. She closed her lips tightly, then weakly stuck out her slender neck. Soldier took another step forward. Before he could do anything, Aoko moved. Spinning in front of Sojiro, she cut off her magical energy and swung her hand as hard as she could. The sound of her slapping his face echoed through the hall along with his staggering steps.
青崎。
卑怯者。
Tears of anger welling in her eyes, Aoko turned her back to Sojiro, sulking as though she would kill him as soon as she looked at him again.
他人の記憶を取り込んだ代償か。引きずられたな、青子。
そうよ。自分の意志を人に曲げられるのがこんなに悔しいなんて知らなかった。
That was about all Aoko could mutter in response. The corners of Toko's lips curled into a grin.
何がおかしいのよ、あなた。
いや、お前にも人並みの情けがあるとは思っていなくてね。バカ呼ばわりは訂正しておくよ。他人の理想を背負うのに怯えるなんて、10年経っても可愛いじゃないか。
あんたね。
そう睨むな。今のは心からの賛辞だ。で、私をどうする？彼に殺させるか、それとも見逃すか？
仕方ないでしょ。あなたの言う通り、これが何よりの代償だったんだから。
Aoko said begrudgingly, shooting Sojiro a sideways glance. He seemed to have recovered from the slap, and his usual absent-minded mind look had returned. He may had no memories of his past, but his morals and values were too deep to be erased. Sojiro was trying to violate those. It would eat away at him forever, and he would be doing it not for himself but for Aoko. Aoko understood this all too well now. The moment he said he would do it, it was the moment he lost. Not stopping him would be no different than watching him die, and she would lose something important inside of her. Aoko did not want that to happen.
青崎、やっぱりその自分の受けた傷は自分で返さないと気が済まない性格か？
Aoko ignored Sojiro, who seemed to have gotten the wrong idea. Instead, she directed her scowl at Toko, who still lay collapsed in front of her.
わかったわよ。トウコ、今回は見逃してあげる。けど、ただで帰れるとは思ってないわよね。
Toko scowled at her little sister, standing smugly over her.
祖父のところに突き出すのなら、ここで引導を渡してくれ。
まさか。私もあの人には会いたくないもの。あなたにはこのまま出て行ってもらうわ。邪魔もしないし、教会に届けも出さない。律子は私が言い含めておくから、今回の件は私たちだけの秘密よ。
Toko's brow creased further. There had to be a catch.
青子、何を企んでいる。
別に。その代わりに呪いをプレゼントしようと思って。今まで散々ガンド食らってきたし、おあいこでしょ。まあ、私のはちょっと強力だけど。今後この土地に入ろうものなら、マダガスカルガエルになってもらうわ。
You'll turn into a frog. Smiling as if they had just arranged to eat Chinese food tomorrow night, Aoko walked toward Toko.
はて、なんでそういうものだけ習得してるんだお前は。
そりゃ師匠がアリスだもの。偏るのは当然でしょ。
The elder Aozaki's sister brow knitted so hard it could have produced a sweater. But I wonder what's gonna happen here though. Are they just gonna leave her there? Perhaps this is why her sister would stay a novice forever.
宗十郎、席外して。覗き見が趣味なら別に見ていってもいいけど。
Okay. As she spoke, she began removing her sister's overcoat. The uncomfortable look in Toko's eyes compared to the strangely cheerful one in Aoko's caused Sojiro to hesitate. Was it really okay to leave the two of them alone? Eventually he nodded that this was just a weird game between sisters.
覗き見は確かにいい趣味じゃないな。
Muttering more to himself than anything, he ducked into an empty classroom.
なんだそのブサイクで悪趣味な術式は。センスがないにも程がある。お前本当に私の妹か。
この通り芸術的才能は全部姉貴に持っていかれた哀れな妹でして。嘆くなら自分の天才性を嘆きなさい。どうか。
Down the cold, dilapidated hallway, cries of sadness, joy, and anguish rang out. Is it over? I really like this blue scenery here, the flower bed, the flower area. Outside, the fully bloomed white flower petals floated one by one into the night. Standing among the ballet of petals, Alice gazed up at the sky. The blossoms gathered into a cloud, then slowly vanished as though falling asleep. Soon, not a single flower would remain, and the clearing would return to a snowy tundra. The magic had ended. In a matter of minutes, the past would return to its rightful place. Along with it, the time shared between the boy and the girl. The old school building was still. Alice embraced the silence and patiently waited. After a while, a soldier emerged from the building and Alice released a puff of white breath. A small sigh of relief. It was over. It is over. Soldier approached carrying Aoko, cradling her in her arms. Was she asleep? Her eyes were closed and she seemed peaceful. Her clothes returned to normal. Like she was wearing jeans earlier, right? Her hair and limp body dangled like a silk drape. She looked just like Sleeping Beauty.
待っていてくれたんだ、アリス。
He said, holding Aoko with little effort. Alice nodded.
瞳子さんはどうなったの？
いや、よくわからないけど、瞳子さんは帰ったよ。青崎が言うには、そう簡単に解除できない呪いをかけたから、向こう10年は三崎市には入ってこれないって。
For 10 years. Okay.
その後、瞳子さんが尻尾を巻くのを仁王立ちで見届けて、見えなくなったらそのまま倒れたんだ。
Alice's response was brief, as she was wondering if things were really so simple. I mean, yeah. She seemed more concerned about Toko than Aoko, which made Sojiro concerned about Alice and Aoko's relationship more than anything.
それはともかくとして、青子はどうなっているんだろう。
He asked nonchalantly as he looked at Aoko's breathing deeply in her sleep.
矛盾と清純を合わせているのね。彼女の時間は今の時間とは異なってしまったから、歯車を合わせるまで目は覚めないわ。
Sojourner nodded in understanding, very clearly still not comprehending a word Alice had just said.
なんか拍子抜けしたよ。結局瞳子さんと青崎どっちが勝ったのかよくつかめない。
そうね。魔術師の争いには明確な点数はつけられないから。瞳子さんの大目的が青崎の魔法の解明なら、魔法を使わされた時点で青子の負けよ。その後のいざこざは凱旋する勝者を夜道で襲ったようなものだし。
Alice said as she turned her sights to the forest. Even Sojourner could tell that that was Alice's way of saying, "Let's go home."
そうだね。青崎もアリスもこのままじゃ風邪をひく。ああ、それと青崎が瞳子さんに呪いをかけるとき何かしてたんだけど。
Sojourner trailed off, hoping Alice would tell him that it was or what it was, but a stony and somewhat affected gaze was her response.
見たの？しずきくん。
いや、青崎が出てけって。
そう。それで青子はどんな呪いをかけたの？
カエルがどうとか。
Sojourner's explanation made Alice's expression darken. Aoko was still a long way from learning any sort of polymorph spells. Her thoughts prevented her from finishing the sentence. In actuality, it was perfectly within Aoko's abilities considering where she was in the time at the moment. As Aoko had said, Toko would not be able to dispel the curse for 10 years. And Aoko of this time had not the ability to use such a curse. Which meant Toko did not have anyone to rebound the curse to. No matter how much she researched dispelling powerful curses, she could not do it without the Aoko of this timeline.
青子が瞳子さんにつけたのは切り傷ぐらいだから、しずきくんが心配するようなことはないわ。青子にしては随分と生ぬるい処置だけど。
After her slightly unsettling remark, Alice quietly began to walk. Sojourner followed her, Aoko in his arms. Together they left the clearing and moved into the forest. As they did, Sojourner abruptly froze.
しずきくん。
He looked back toward the old school buildings filled with a strange expression. Was it a homesickness he felt? Though this was only his second time seeing it, he had a nostalgic feeling like he would never be back. He looked like a child saying goodbye to an old toy that was being thrown away. Seeing his expression, Alice felt a hint of sympathy and chided herself.
あの荒れ地がどうかした？
She asked him, watching the flowery garden fade into a snowy field. Sojourner shook his head.
なんとなく知っている場所に似てる気がして。おかしいな。やってきた時はそんな気はしなかったのに。
He stood staring at the tundra for what seemed like an eternity, reluctant to leave. If she left him there, he would still be gazing at it by morning, probably even longer. But there was no point in doing that. In the end, Alice was the only one who would remember the beautiful scenery he yearned for.
ここはその場所にそんなに似てる？
全然似てない。面影すら皆無だ。
なら、それは気の迷いよ。
Sojourner nodded at Alice's harsh conclusion. He smiled slightly, deciding it was pointless to want something that did not exist.
そうだね。多分幻を見ていたんだ。 あれは一度幸福だった時の夢だった。
Severing the ties that bound him, Soldier turned his back away from the snowy clearing, away from the unfamiliar yet familiar place where he had known happiness.
さあ早く帰ろう。青崎は重いし体も疲れてる。洋館に着いたらあったかいお茶を入れよう、アリス。
Sojiro spoke her name with a smile. Her heart skipped a beat. Since when did he start saying her name so casually like that? Somehow she managed a nod before beginning to walk again. As he moved away from her, she asked a small question to his back.
重いって私より
Is she heavier than me? Aoko was a bit taller than Alice, so naturally she would weigh more, but Alice wanted to hear him say it anyway. Not one to disappoint, Sojiro answered without misusing a beat or missing a beat.
ああ、数値的に言うのならアリスより10キロ増しぐらい。
Oh, she's gonna awaken now.
そう青子が聞いてたら大変ね
Judging by Alice's tone, she was probably going to tell Aoko later.
意地が悪いな、アリスも。それにさっきのは本人の名誉のために死者誤入してたんだぞ、一応。
His attempts at being kind had likely drawn him closer to his deathbed. But yeah, we're back now. Look at Alice's expression right here. We are back.
ダメかな。
He asked nervously. Alice could not help but crack a smile at his innocence. However, she was not used to smiling in front of others, so she turned away and walked into the woods. From Sojiro's perspective, she was storming off in a mood.
なんだ。友達の悪口で怒るなんて、やっぱり仲はいいんじゃないか、青崎。
Sojiro rushed to catch up with Alice, gently carrying alcohol along the way. Though the prince lacked the courage to kiss the sleeping princess, he at least saved her and was bringing her back to her castle. Despite what he had been through, he did not look like your typical hero. Still, in this story at least, he most certainly was. It's over. At Sail of the Star for next time. Well, we're very close, so I guess, yeah, at least maybe one more. Yeah, one more and then we're done. One more chapter, I guess. But yeah, that was pretty good. Pretty nice though. Honestly, after finishing that battle, I mean, I kind of like the conversations more, I'm not gonna lie. Like this whole visual novel, this whole game, for some reason I do enjoy, or I did enjoy, the casual conversations between the characters rather than the battles, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know why, but yeah, like this, when the battle finished earlier, and then when it was just Aoko, yeah, talking to Sojiro, talking to Toko, and then Alice talking to Sojiro there, like I like that more for some reason. Like the battles it's not bad. I mean, it was good as well, but I'm saying I just like the conversations between the characters, especially by the end there when they were back to normal and then Alice joking around there, right? That was pretty good. So let's see what happens. Let's see what happens next episode. Maybe the final one, we'll find out. So we're gonna continue this and do more of Witch and the Holy Night in the next one. So I'll just see you then, guys. Bye bye.